Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs. Our next guest is Quang Pham, founder and CEO of Cadrenal Therapeutics. Welcome to Radio Entrepreneurs.
Well, thank you, Jonathan, and entrepreneurs in the studio. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you on. You've got a fascinating journey. Some of your background tells a little bit about it, but you want to go ahead and tell our listeners a little bit about your journey to entrepreneurism?
Well, I think entrepreneurs are sometimes thought of as born, but the ones I've come across are either family business, somebody who can't find their way through corporate and sees a solution or a service, or somebody who just wants to make a lot of money and have their own hours. So those are the kind of the broader category. I'm definitely
If
not
it
from
were
the
only so simple, if it were only so simple, right?
Well, those are where we came from. I'm certainly not from the silver spoon family business side. I am not even a first generation. I came to this country as a 10-year-old refugee from Vietnam 50 years ago when the end of the Vietnam War. And fortunately enough, we landed in America instead of other countries that took in the refugees. So, you know, grew up very fast in America, learned English, got to UCLA. I wanted to do something to pay back for my citizenship, so I joined the Marines. I didn't know that I would learn decision making that would apply to entrepreneurship. Served 7 years on active duty as a helicopter pilot, and took that experience into the pharmaceutical sales world for about 5 years. Then in 2000, during the dot-com era, I jumped out of Genentech, which was considered the top biotech company in the world then. Was doing very well there, and I think that's another lesson I learned. Always love what you do until you can do what you love. Do it your best, and then raised venture capital. Did that for a number of years, and fast forward, got into the drug development side of the business about 10 years ago. Started one company, couldn't take it public, so we had to shut it down during the COVID year. Started Cadrenal Therapeutics in 2021, got everything ready, and we were the first biotech IPO in January of 2023. So Cadrenal Therapeutics is NASDAQ listed, CVKD, and we are a late-stage drug development company working on a rare disease blood thinner, basically to prevent blood clots in patients with implanted cardiac devices like mechanical heart valves and left ventricular assist device. So that's the 2-minute executive summary of where I came from, how I
What?
got into corporate America, and then how I got into entrepreneurism.
Well, you've certainly given us a lot to unpack in 2 minutes. So let me tell you that. So, you've had obviously incredibly far-ranging experiences, and I want to fast forward to the most recent. You're saying one first, if I understood correctly, first biopharma company to go public, or
Yeah, but first biopharma go public on the NASDAQ in 2023. So what you had is you had the COVID year of 2020. People couldn't travel, couldn't do roadshow. Everything came to a halt, and then something unique happened in our industry. The roadshows became the Zoom roadshow, and it became very efficient. Before that, a management team would go to New York, put the book together with their lawyers, accountants, and advisors. And then you would go hit New York, San Francisco, Boston, Chicago, maybe Dallas, Fort Worth, Atlanta. But now it's just, starting 2020, a lot of companies went public via Zoom pitches and roadshow. But then sometime in the second half of 2022, the IPO window for biopharma closed. And so for a while there, no, I think one company went public between September and December 31st of 2022. We were in the queue. We couldn't get out in 2022, but fortunately we were ready when the window reopened in early of 2023. And then we got that call from our consultants and our SEC Secure Exchange Commission lawyers from NASDAQ and said, are you ready? And having ready means you have to have financials audited that didn't go stale because you had that waiting period. You have to have the S1 all ready to go, approved. Basically, you have to have your bankers ready. And so when we get that call, we were ready after that 4 month of being in the queue. So we were the first biopharma IPO onto NASDAQ in 2023 and the first biopharma to go public in Northeast Florida, Jacksonville. This is not known to be a biotech hub. This is known to be a healthcare provider hub with, the Mayo Clinic, Baptist, and a number of the University of Florida health system. But it's definitely not a biotech, biopharma hub. But it proves to you that you don't have to be in the hub to go public and to draw talent and to acquire assets to do what you do. And so to focus on the mission rather than being in the right city or in the right hub, because capital is pervasive now and technology like Zoom, everything is more efficient with AI, with the ability to transmit information, digital signature. It's not like 20, 25 years ago when you had to be in New York City, go through the book, comb through, basically word for word as you script out your S1 with your lawyer. So I think it's more efficient with regards to methodology, but the fundamentals remain the same. We're in the biopharma industry. We are pre-revenue, so we raise money to develop the drugs. And how we measure success ultimately is the FDA approves the drug for patients in the United States and eventually for the world. So I share our mission with our team is that we are developing a drug for Americans and for the world that will be here forever when it goes generic until somebody, develops a better drug that goes generic and is cheaper. But, generic drugs are here forever until companies decide not to manufacture them anymore.
So, you've sort of, I guess, by some measures, if you look at from the outside, achieved the ultimate goal in terms of most entrepreneurs, right? To take a company public and to have success in that regard. It's really fascinating as you talk about the company still being pre-revenue stage and in development for people to maybe wrap their heads around how does that happen?
Yeah.
It seems sort of counterintuitive, right? We're a public company, we raised all kinds of capital, but we have a long horizon to get to the point where we're a profitable company.
Yeah,
Cash
so
flow
I think,
positive.
yeah. So I think in my limited experience over 30 years of being in the pharmaceutical industry and entrepreneur and raising money in California and in Florida, two very distinct coasts, different coasts. Remember the dot-com era, right? Everything was about eyeballs and websites and
Yep.
traffic. There was revenue, but some of the companies didn't have revenue, but there was huge losses. So when that era kind of took another step into the new era, like Facebook and Instagram, those companies kept the original founder CEO. I was bounced out after 3 years for a more senior executive. Late 2000s, the Facebook, the Instagram, the YouTubes kept their founders and they were able to generate revenue and become profitable. So the only really industry that's left, in my knowledge, is that the biopharma industry. So most biotech companies, drug development that are public, have no revenue because it's just not us. There are companies are market caps of billions of dollars which have burned hundreds of millions of dollars to develop a drug that potentially could be worth billions of dollars. So it's about the potential and it's about meeting the unmet need for patients who otherwise have to rely on old generic drugs from 30, 40 years ago or procedures. And so I think that's, how do you measure gain is how do companies advance their drugs from the clinic, from preclinical animal testing into the clinic, and how the FDA the regulators either look at the program and designate as orphan, which is for 200,000 patients or less, or fast track or accelerated approval. So all of those things are also being measured, but not only the management team, the board, the shareholders, but also investor and potential investors. Those are the marks we look for.
So, you've got so much again, as I said, in your background. What do you think drove you to where you are today? What drove that desire to be giving back? Was it your journey to the U.S.? Obviously, not a traditional upbringing. It was
So
probably
yeah. So I've
you're
written.
probably fighting the odds early on,
Yeah. I think
or at
any.
least
I
it felt
think
that way.
most of us have been underdogs in our life. I don't think anybody on earth has been favored, including those who have been born into favorable situations. I think everybody on this planet has been an underdog somewhere in their life, whether financially, coming from a war zone, or economically born in this country, but not to a certain, demographic or economic level. Everybody's been an underdog. So when I look back, and I wrote a book 20 years ago, A Sense of Duty, about coming over from Vietnam, serving the Marines. The latest book that came out in April was called Underdog Nations, about my look back at what drove me. And it revolves around three themes. The first theme is to serve my adopted country that took me in the United States. So I was able to do that by service in the Marine Corps. But while doing that, I was able to honor my family, the South Vietnamese people that, had to flee the communists, and my late father, who was captured by the North Vietnamese and incarcerated for 12 years. So I was able to do goal one and two. And the third part was to contribute to healthcare and ultimately to bring this product to the world. I have a bunch of coincidences that I look back and say, were they coincidences or was it destiny? Was it a coincidence that I served in the Marines when my father was shot down and rescued by the U.S. Marines before I was even born? I would call it destiny. I'm working on a drug that helps people from death through stroke or a heart attack. And my father actually died from a stroke while taking the oldest drug in fighting blood clots, Coumadin warfarin. That was 25 years ago. Now I'm working on this drug called Tecarfarin in Cadrenal Therapeutics, hopefully to remove warfarin from market one day, which was one deemed as the most dangerous drug in America. So those themes kind of stood out for me. Serving my country, giving something back, honoring my family, and contributing to healthcare. So, and they revolve around those coincidences, which I think it was destiny. So everybody has those coincidences. Everybody could.
Sounds a lot more like a
Yeah.
determined path based on circumstances than coincidence. And credit to you for pursuing those things and making those dreams come true. And
No,
really,
it's a
really,
credit. I think it's a credit to people I call admirables, people I admire but never met. I saw their career, like Colin Powell, Fred Smith, who started FedEx, who was a Marine, and Doug Hamlin, who recruited into the Marine Corps when I was a college student at UCLA. Basically 40 years ago, he said you can always go into business, but this is your chance to serve your country. This is a young man's game. You can't go into business and come back and do it later. Okay. And so it turned out to be true. It opened a lot of doors for me, gave me a lot of confidence coming to America, with a non-traditional name and being a refugee in the aftermath of the Vietnam War. I made a lot of friends, learned about decision making under stress, and I think I was able to apply. Not everything was rosy. My first startup, I raised 13 million, and the venture capitalist said, "You know what? We're going to find a better CEO, so we're going to move you aside." So I had to leave the company basically after starting it. That was common back in the 2000s. Started a company, could not take it public in 2018. Eventually, we had to shut it down and then restart again. So there's no easy road, but we keep getting off the bat, coming back in the game after losing. And those are all themes of me and being a young athlete, a young officer, and a young salesman for Genentech. You get the no's, but you keep coming back because we live in a society that likes underdogs, and we all get 2 or 3 chances.
I was going to say, if you believe
Quite
in
a few.
serendipity, the third time has certainly been the charm. So
Yes.
that's fantastic to hear that. Quang, if people want to reach out to you, hear more about your story, purchase your books, learn more about Cadrenal Therapeutics, get involved somehow, what's the best way for them to reach out to
I'm
you?
always enthusiastic about, just sharing my little story. It's at my website under my name, quangxpham.com. The book and how to reach me. You can learn about all of my journey as well about our company.
Fantastic. Our guest has been Quang X, founder and CEO of Cadrenal Therapeutics. It's been a real pleasure having you on Radio Entrepreneurs and hearing your story.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Wish you continued success in your journey ahead. And we'll be right back with another segment on Radio Entrepreneurs.